As a climate scientist, Dr. Andrew King spends a lot of time thinking about the future of our planet. He's concerned that we might be locking in damaging climate change impacts for future generations.
I find it alarming that we still have record high greenhouse gas emissions, even decades after we've really understood the problem of climate change. We're seeing really alarming extreme weather events around the planet, and the action we're taking on tackling climate change is far too slow.
That makes the climate projection work of scientists like Dr. King all the more important. He uses observational records with climate and Earth systems models to understand the long-term impacts of continued greenhouse gas emissions and a warming planet on extreme weather events. But he's also looking at scenarios where we successfully reduce greenhouse gas emissions under the Paris Agreement.
Traditionally, climate scientists have been more focused on the risks of continued greenhouse gas emissions and global warming, and less on the consequences of actually achieving net zero emissions.
Dr. King says the path we take to net zero can make a big difference.
If we're quite quick at decarbonising and achieve net zero emissions sooner in the next few decades, then we would start seeing benefits, we think, in the latter part of the century, including reduced heat waves across many land areas, including Australia. But because the ocean is much slower to evolve, we would expect to see continued sea level rise and continued warming of the oceans.
But the outlook would be much grimmer if we don't slow our current pace of global warming.
If we are much slower to achieve net zero emissions, then we're going to see much bigger changes before we actually reach net zero.
Dr. King has been involved in many high-impact publications, including the Australian Academy of Science's 2021 report, which looked at the consequences for Australia in a 3 degrees Celsius warmer world.
We would see really big changes in the cryosphere, with major ice loss, really increasing the chance of extreme sea level rises, and also potential for other tipping points in other parts of the Earth system. Every increment of global warming is raising the risk of having really severe damage.
He says communicating the impacts and science behind climate is critical.
It's a problem where the solution is necessarily collective. We need all governments to really push towards net zero emissions. That really comes about from people understanding the impacts of climate change and pressuring their elected officials to act on reducing greenhouse gas emissions.
For his contributions to climate science, Dr. King has now been awarded the Anton Hales Medal from the Australian Academy of Science.